Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Welcome. I'm in my new place, and I took the time today with boxes all around me to stop and check out the new content that came with the most recent patch. I'm a pretty late comer to it. That's kind of rare for me to be in this situation, but I'm sure there are a lot of you out there who also still want to be kept in the loop as to what these little bits of content ArenaNet are throwing into the game still are, and that's what I'd like to dive in today. Of course, I referred to this in the previous video as a single line in the patch notes that says new parties are becoming interested in Leyline magic, and it is a little bit more than just the achievements that have become available in the current events section of our hero panels, but I'll try to get that in due course, because first of all I want to mention something slightly unrelated, but it's actually one of the polls ArenaNet are doing at the moment, and the first of the polls we've seen affect something that isn't just world versus world, when the majority of the polling has been going on. So what you're looking at here is the official website and the blog posts that yes do still exist and yes are still going up, and it reads as such: choose a name for Tyria's heroes, and this would be Timey, Rox, Bran, Marjorie, Cass, and Ritlock. Amazingly, they've added Ritlock there, but not Kanak, which is curious. I mean, if we ever thought of Destiny's Edge 2.0, it really does feel that way now that Ritlock is a part of it. It's like, oh, this is his old group, and now this is his new group. Really interesting mix of characters, but they say you've led this band of iconic heroes to victory as pack commander, and now it's time to decide how they're known in the history books. This is obviously something that the writers have been flirting with for a good while now. The fan community has perhaps not so lovingly been referring to this collection of heroes as Destiny's Edge 2.0 in reference to the fact that they seem to be just thrown center stage to replace what already was an iconic band of heroes made up of a mix of the varying races. Those totally out of the loop. You might not realize why ArenaNet did this, but prevailing theory at the moment would be that it's because the voice actors they originally chose for original Destiny's Edge didn't quite work schedule-wise with their ideas for Living World and continually having these characters reappear on a kind of spontaneous schedule, because of course we have a lot of big names in that original band. Funnily enough, the one that gets the bad rap most of the time is Felicia Day, who voices Zoja and was pretty much absent in a lot of the season 1 and 2 content, but I think it's probably scheduling problems with all of them, but that is all speculation. I don't know if we've ever really heard the devs talk about that themselves. There's probably an interview somewhere out there. But so we got this new band of characters, and it would seem really tacky for ArenaNet to throw this new group of characters together, quite clearly are just trying to supersede the old group, and then give them some, you know, epic hero name all at the same time. But they do need something that we can refer to them as a collective as. It really would make some sense if we have an official name. How do you do that? Well, they're giving us a poll. The group needs a new name of its very own, they say, and you can help to choose it. So the narrative team has selected 3 thematically appropriate potential names to represent the group, and the decision belongs to us as to which of those 3 it actually is. In the event of a tie, which I guess is going to be really rare, then they will break the tie. They'll be the tiebreakers. This is nice. It does remind me of the old season 1 stuff. It's funny how many season 1-ish things have started to happen right now. We did, of course, have a community-wide. It was more of an in-game thing, big mass vote once before, and that was whether Ellen Keel or Evan Nashblade sort of rose to power within Lion's Arch. Now, that was much more obvious how that was going to affect the story, and this is perhaps going to be a little bit more minor, but come on, it is cool, and you've got to give them a little bit of credit for this, so do participate. Here are what we've got, okay? If you want to participate in the poll, first you have to select your language, and then here are your 3 options. For English at least, the Unbroken, Eternity's Guard, or Dragon's Watch. I surprisingly have very little opinion on all 3 of these. I think probably Eternity's Guard sounds coolest, but that might just be because it sounds very similar to an old guild I had back in Guild Wars 1. Dragon's Watch sounds fairly appropriate, but to me, this new group of heroes has been far more relevant about a lot more things than just the dragons, and especially the Morgemoth arc, considering how short it felt. And that's not me just taking a dig at the length of Heart of Thorns. It genuinely, in the narrative, did seem to last a very short space of time. The conflict against Zaitan was very long, very pronounced. Even before, Tyrion came into the picture and started organizing people against Zaitan. Zaitan had been threatening the peoples of Tyria for a long time. Morgemoth hadn't even been doing that. And so, you look at what these guys have done, they did a lot more, it feels like, with Scarlet and with the Tower of Nightmares, and when you look at Casimir and Marjorie, particularly Casimir, and sort of their relations with the political upper class in Divinity's Reach at that party in Season 2, it seems they're a bit broader than just about the dragons, or I'd like to think they're a bit broader than just the dragons. If they become Dragon's Watch, it kind of just suggests, oh, these are the characters we're going to see trot around place to place to place, killing elder dragons, and that's what the game story is going to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too deep, but that's what we'll probably all do with a poll like this. I guess you guys can try out yourself. The Unbroken is also a top choice as a very hardcore farmer of the Domain of Anguish back in my day. I do happen to know there was a particular forgotten NPC named Relkis the Broken, and the Unbroken makes me think of him, so I might vote for that. I won't reveal which one I did until after the results come in, but go ahead, guys, have fun. There is the link in the top of the description, and it's really cool that the devs are doing this. I hope they give us a little bit more as time goes by. All right, so let's talk about the current events. Let's talk about what's coming on in game right now. You can actually sum up the story fairly quickly, and they're pretty good at giving this to players. This, I believe, is the first current event or update that we've had in the game where they deliberately give you a mail which will direct players where to go straight off the bat. So if you think about the first current event thing, it kind of spread through word of mouth. Regular players would log in, they wouldn't know necessarily anything's changed. It was just that some people killed dragon minions, got unidentified lodestones, and then it kind of spread, and through word of mouth it got around. But this time, actually, the players who have already done the unidentified lodestone thing will get a mail from Ella McKay straight away. And she will say, hey, we've been looking at this unidentified lodestone. Come have a chat with me. And so she basically tells you, there's a small bit of information here in this patch in Ella's original dialogue that I think a lot of people are overlooking. But she talks about how the composition of this lodestone has completely changed because of the Leyline energy. And I think it is important to look at that, because the other place we're seeing a lot of Layline activity going a bit wild at the moment is, of course, Wing 2 of the current raid. And the final boss there, he changes completely as well as more power flows into him. I wonder whether this is going to become some pivotal plot point as we move forward, that magic can change matter in such a fundamental way. But Leylines are going a bit bonkers and appearing all over the place. Now, back in Season 1, it was established that Lion's Arch is a Leyline hub. It's one of these places where lots of different ley lines come together to form an immense pool or vortex or whatever of untapped energy. And this is exactly what Scarlet Briar tapped into, rediverted it to Morgemoth, thus catalyzing his awakening, perhaps a little bit earlier than he would have otherwise woken up for himself. Well, now we're in the middle of a story where Morgemoth is dead, and all that magic he originally got from Lion's Arch, and then after he awoke started gathering, with his early expansion, is now flowing back everywhere, and there's too much of it. And you're actually seeing, in Lion's Arch, ley lines spewing out of the ground. I mean, that's huge, really. If you think about the entire lore and history and understanding we have of all the people who've ever lived in Lion's Arch, through any form it's ever had, we've never heard of people noticing weird arcs of magical energy spewing out of the ground. And yet here in contemporary Tyria, that is happening. That's a cool sign that the events that are currently taking place are unlike anything the races of Tyria have really dealt with before. The death of elder dragons. These are huge, huge, huge events. And I kind of like that, though ArenaNet did just, I think, put them in New Lion's Arch for a bit of flavor, because none of the NPCs really, well, except one small example I'll get to in a second, no NPCs really seem to be saying, oh my god, there's Leyline energy next to me, or talking about it in any way. It's just a sign to your average player something weird's going on. And they put them in smart places where lots of players would see them, specifically in the Blackline Trading Company trading post building in Lion's Arch is one like near some crates. And that is not a coincidence, it seems, because the other place you see a lot of them is in the Blackline Trading Company headquarters. And that doesn't seem to be on accident. It seems that this Leyline craziness isn't just happening in Lion's Arch because this is where the hub is beneath, but it may be specifically because of whatever Nashblade is doing deep in those vaults. In fact, as you walk deeper into the company, you can see that these lines of magic are still continuing to emanate down there. I'll remind you guys that when Lion's Arch got rebuilt most recently, there was a bit of a bug where you could walk through one of these walls, you could log out, log back in, and you'd end up deep underground in the Blackline Trading Company vaults. I did a video on it way back when, and down there, you couldn't really do anything, but you could see he had an Asura gate. That, so far, has had no implications in the story or never been properly referenced by the devs. We just know about it because players broke out the map and went down there to find it. But despite this, I think we're pretty much taking it as canon that Evan is doing something with a gate down there. And now, all of his wealth, all of his magical artifacts, shall we say, all of his power seems to be collecting this Leyline stuff. And it's not just because the Leylines are appearing in Lion's Arch, but actually, you guys might remember in the previous video on the patch notes, I told you that in Black Lion chests, as of this patch, you can get random crystalline junk items that you can just vendor for a gold. And there was on the main website a little passage of text supposedly coming from Evan Nashblade himself saying, hey, yeah, the Leylines are being kind of weird with my stuff and we're getting all these crystals everywhere. So, of, you know, magical energy. Again, energy from Leyline's magic being crystalline. We're seeing this again. And Evan's basically saying, hey, so we're just selling this stuff off. So it really is there in the story that something funky is going on with him. And then that makes it a little bit more interesting when I tell you perhaps that this patch reintroduces the Consortium. At least to some extent. Obviously, the Consortium have already been there, but this is the first active role we've seen them take in the story for a while. So let's get back to this mail from Ella McKay, shall we? She mails you, she tells you about this unidentified lodestone, and now she's telling you that there's been a bit of a development. The Consortium have, and Ella doesn't know how they did this, so presumably it's quite a hard thing to do. The Consortium have developed technology that will allow them to collect this Leyline energy when it starts surging, and you know, relieve the pressure on these areas with surging Leyline energy, but also to bring that energy to some other purpose, to take it home and use it for whatever else. So there's immediately a question of why did the Consortium develop this? Then there's another question of how did the Consortium develop this? I think the answer to how they developed this is pretty obvious. The Consortium are a group of cutthroat merchants and entrepreneurs, businessmen that really have no sense of ethics, and they've accrued an immense amount of power. They haven't done anything particularly nefarious since the South Sun Cove incident, but I think it's safe to say that they still have a great many resources. There are some Consortiums still just outside their headquarters in Lion's Arch talking about how they have a new plot of land they'd like to open on, by the way, which would be the same kind of plot as how we got South Sun Cove introduced to us, so it could be hinting at some kind of new map. That's not new to this patch, but it's kind of tangentially related, so I thought I'd mention it here. These guys seem to have probably some kind of an evil stake in the current events that are going on. They've noticed that power is everywhere. They want to grab it for themselves, and that's exactly what I've been talking about, where I want to see this franchise go for a long time. As we push out of the Elder Dragons, we start seeing how evil and dangerous and motivated, nuanced characters use all of this fresh power that is around, and I think the Consortium are a really good group to sort of fit that bill. So, despite the fact it came from the Consortium, Ella and the Dermond Priory have bought some of these devices, or one of these devices, from them, and want your help in using the device to collect some of this wild Leyline energy, specifically at the moment in Blaze Ridge Steppes. Because she says there's a complication, and that is the fact that not only did they buy one of these devices, but the Inquest stole one from the Consortium. So, that's pretty interesting. I've always liked thinking about the difference between the Consortium and the Inquest, how they are very similar in a great many respects. But this patch actually very bluntly puts them face to face, and you actually get to see Consortium versus Inquest, as the Inquest also want to grab this energy, and for far more obviously evil reasons. So you go to Blaze Ridge Steppes. Currently there is a suggestion that things may happen on Snowdon and Mount Maelstrom as well, but they're not in the moment. I wonder whether this is ArenaNet just sort of saying, hey, the next couple of patches when we add stuff, it will just be expanding into those maps as well. I'm not entirely sure. But when you arrive in Blaze Ridge, there are actually two events that can take place. One where you head to a specific Leyline energy coalescence with the Dermond Priory, and another one where you head to a different one with the Consortium, and they have different achievements for helping each of them out. If you help the Dermond Priory, your achievements panel will simply thank you for helping them do their research. If you help the Consortium, it will say in quotes, you've helped the Consortium do their research, whatever that may be, with the Leyline energy. The way that the events function is pretty basic. Essentially, you've got a ton of Inquest. There is a hidden achievement as well for completing one of these events without letting the Inquest get anything for themselves. But then you've also got the Leyline Coalescence that you're supposed to damage. It will drop Leyline energy everywhere, and you need to drop these in the machine. That's pretty much it. It's quite basic. However, I do think that ArenaNet got the scaling really well on this one. It feels a bit more challenging than most events, especially the current events section that we've seen just rolling out recently hasn't had very much difficulty to any of them. But this one, you will find some of those golems items from the inquest get very, very deadly, and that hidden achievement can actually, as far as I see so far, not that I've played very much of it, I haven't had much of a chance just yet, but the hidden achievement does seem to not be a cakewalk, i.e. you're not going to just accidentally get it every single time. People really do have to focus on aiming for that. There was a bit of a problem with the event as well. I'll just mark it down for the books here. I missed this entirely, but because of the way the event works, and the achievement is to cash in 30 of these Leyline energies for your achievement. If you do it for the Priory, by the way, it will give you karma, but if you do it for the Consortium, it will give you gold. In fact, I think this is the first time I've just seen attached to an achievement a raw reward of flat gold. I guess maybe they're doing this a little bit more because they realize not everybody cares about the Tyrion Mastery XP anymore, because a lot of people have all their masteries maxed out, and they're trying to include other people to feel happy with some of these rewards. But with the way it works, if you think about it, you've got a big zerg of players, as you do with these, and everyone wants just these handful of little Leyline coalescences. You're basically competing over who can press F the fastest, which isn't really what Guild Wars 2 stands for. Apparently there was a bit of an uproar about this, and there was a quick patch very, very soon after the release that changed the mechanics slightly, such that lots of people can pick up a single Leyline energy shard to take back to the machine, even if there was only physically one on the ground, and now there's much less of a spirit of competition and people are happy to play it together again. I'm doing it a little bit later, about a week after the patch came out at this point, and there's still a ton of people going for it, so don't feel too disheartened. There's still a ton of people even doing the bandit stuff from the week before and the other events. They all seem to be very well populated, so slowly over time, guys, as more of these come out, if you're starting to feel a little more tempted to come back and give them a try, don't feel like it's going to be a ghost town, because so far it doesn't really look like that it is. But so that's it, really, guys. That's this patch. I am pretty sure the next stuff we will see as we go forward is it moving into Mount Maelstrom, is it moving into Snowdon Drifts, and what I'm more curious about, though, is how this stuff here will tie into Season 3, like whether it's just like a small tangential little, oh, let's scrabble around and deal with some very minor stories for now, or whether it will really cohesively hit into the Season 3 story and be relevant. I don't know, but this does seem to suggest that the Consortium may be coming a little bit back more into the picture, and I'm happy for that, because we haven't seen anything of the Consortium for a long time, even through the old Lions Arch rebuilding. Some people have been saying as well, for the future, this could suggest more crazy events in Lions Arch. I don't think so, somehow. I don't think they're going to destroy their main city again, no matter how many people tell them that they like the old one, that the new one feels too flat, feels too open. Too much like Disneyland was a specific comment I read recently, which I think is pretty apt. I don't think we're going to see anything major in Lions Arch, unless, again, it's related to that interesting concept art we saw from back before Heart of Thorns came out, and it's some big attack, but Lions Arch easily handles it, and demonstrates that they are a real power to be reckoned with in the world for stories even further beyond that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for this one, guys. Thanks very much for watching. They're doing better, definitely. Better at the rewards, better at the events themselves, especially after that little patch. Better at telegraphing that there have actually been changes in-game as well. I hope to see ArenaNet continue to improve. I will continue to give you guys the juice as it does. But until then, thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm really hoping to get back into the swing of things just like normal tomorrow, as long as I can unpack as many things as possible. And also, hopefully, I won't get neighbours complaining that I'm very loud while I record, because if I do, you might hear a bit of a bored wood of potatoes in future videos. So thanks, guys. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Hope all's been good. I'd love to hear what's been going on with you in these past little while. And until next time, have a wonderful evening, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.